Good morning, Michael.
Good morning, Daniel.
Good morning, everybody. This is Running Around Jerusalem. Michael, are we in Jerusalem? It doesn't feel like we're in Jerusalem.
Definitely not.
Where are we?
We are in the Jezreel Valley at Tel Jezreel here at the footsteps of Mount Gilboa in this beautiful, beautiful area.
What?
It's amazing. Sometimes you just got to get out of Jerusalem, Daniel.
I agree with that, but what are we doing here?
Well, we have our friends to thank from the partnership together, Afula-Gilboa New England Partnership, that have brought us up here to come and explore this area and to take you guys around this area and see what we see today.
And Michael, what are we going to see today?
We're going to see ghosts today.
Ghosts?
Ghosts. Actually, what we're talking about here is this region is really one of the backdrops for many of the stories in the Bible, especially in the book of Judges. We're going to tell some of those stories and maybe we'll see some ghosts on the way, who knows?
I'm excited for that. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel, come check us out on Facebook and talk to us. We would love to hear from you, and please, everyone back home in New England and everywhere across the US, continue to donate to your federation in what makes projects like this and others possible. Let's go. Michael, we are here firstly in a very beautiful spot.
I know.
It's very exciting to be here.
This is one of my favorite spots in the entire country.
I'm very excited to be out here, and it's really, really enjoyable to be here first thing in the morning. Okay, give me a little bit of background where I am, geographically, help people out a bit, and...
Two Duchifats, right there. The national bird of Israel.
The national, the hoopie.
Hoopoo.
But it was a hoopie.
Hoopoo.
Oh, whatever. The bird with the crown on its head. Yeah. Okay. So, where are we?
Where are
we? Geographically, where am I?
Okay, so we're in the north of Israel.
Okay, that's a good start. North of Israel.
This valley that we have all below us is called the Jezreel Valley.
Okay.
Okay. And we happen to be coming down the hill of an archaeological tell called Tel Jezreel.
Tel is like a hill, right?
A tell is an artificial hill that's created by layers and layers and layers of civilizations. So it means that you've got a good place to build a city, and so then someone else comes and conquers the city.
And builds on top of it.
And builds on top of it. And then someone else comes and conquers the city and builds on top of it, and so forth and so on.
Right.
And that's what we have going on here.
I see. Okay. So give me where my closest cities, where am I situated more or less in the north?
Okay, so you're not far from Afula.
Okay.
Okay. We're also in the valley not far from Beit Shean. That would be the other big city kind of in the region.
Okay.
So, but the Jezreel Valley is really the crossing point if you want to cross from one part of the country to the other, from east to west or from west to east.
I see.
And especially in ancient times, that made this area extremely, extremely important, because anyone who wanted to travel, let's say from the huge civilization in Egypt up to the major civilization where, Iraq and Iran and stuff are today.
I see.
Had to go through this valley.
So you said that this place, what I have up to my right, is basically an artificial hill built basically by construction over many generations. That's correct?
That's more or less correct. But if we go back to the location as well, this hill happens to be at the narrowest part of this valley, which means that's why it's such a strategic
I see. So
location.
It's the most easily defendable spot. So I can clearly see from all the bits and pieces that are around me here that there clearly was civilization here.
Oh yeah.
And so
thousands of years of civilization here.
So has there been work here, excavation work, archaeological work?
Yes. So there were some excavations done in like the 90s earlier on, but the real incredible excavations have been going on since 2012.
Right. 2012.
Yeah, digging out this tell. Now, why are they digging out this tell so importantly? Because this would have been one of the central cities during the Israelite kingdom. We're talking about 9th, 8th century BCE. So some of those well-known kings of the Israelite kingdom, Ahab and his father Omri, Ahab specifically would have had a major city and palace here at a place called Jezreel.
Okay, let's back it up for 2 seconds here.
Yeah.
In just terms of historic, because we did a little bit of geography, let's do a little bit of history. So we got the people of Israel conquered the land of Israel, and then we got some judges, and then we got King David, and then we got his son, and he builds the temple, and then after that, when he dies, Solomon, then the country splits in two, right?
That's right.
So we get two kingdoms. The north bit, which is the kingdom of Israel, and the southern bit, which is the kingdom of what?
Of Judah.
Right. So Ahab is a king of what bit?
Ahab is a king of Israel.
Of Israel.
He's in the north.
Of the north bit. Okay, fine.
Now the funny thing is that Ahab and his father Omri are actually mentioned in extra biblical sources more than David and Solomon are, okay? We actually have no proof of David and Solomon from anything outside of the Bible except for a small fragment of inscription that mentions the house of David.
Okay.
But Omri and Ahab, we have a lot of stuff about them, including like this victory stele called the Karkar stele, where Ahab is said to have given 2,000 chariots towards this battle against the Assyrians, which was the major empire of the time.
Excellent. So this is actually unbelievable. So King Ahab, who is in the book of Kings,
Yes.
then he is also in historical sources as well.
Archaeological sources that we found, which is pretty amazing. And one of the most famous stories regarding him in the book of Kings is when he wanted to have this vineyard of a guy named Navot. But he went to Navot and asked him to give him his vineyard or sell his vineyard to him, and Navot refused.
I see.
And so Ahab went back and was pouting to his wife Jezebel, and she said, don't worry about it, take care of it. She has Navot killed, takes the vineyard, gives it to Ahab. And by the way, all of this is taking place right around the area where their palace is in Jezreel. So we're talking about this particular area.
Here.
Now, why am I bringing all this up? Because when they started to do the excavations in 2012, one of the amazing things about these excavations is it was the first time they used LiDAR scanning before they excavated.
Okay.
Basically,
wait. They used what scanning? Sorry. We've done history, we've done geography, now we're doing
science.
LiDAR scanning?
LiDAR, okay. Basically, is that you fly over an area.
Yes.
Okay, and we're going down this way.
Yeah.
You shoot like different like lights or lasers or whatever it is.
Right.
And it scans the area, and it can tell you what's beneath the surface that you see, meaning going down to the bedrock. Are there any water installations? Are there any winemaking facilities?
So it's a way of scanning the ground, but I can also tell what's underneath.
Yeah, but it means that you know exactly where to dig.
I see.
Because if you see a water installation, you see something that looks like a wine press area,
right,
you go straight there and you dig, as opposed to having to get lucky.
To guesswork this bit, and work it out. All right, I see. All right, just gone past a kilometer. Okay, so what's funny about Ahab and Navot and that whole story is, one, Jezebel is like a very common term now today for an evil lady. It's like a Jezebel is it's like a very common phrase for that. Wait, what was this, man?
This is the spring.
This is incredible.
This is the spring. This is Tel Jezreel.
Michael, why do we run in Jerusalem? I was like, we don't have this kind of stuff. This is wicked.
Because to get up here and film, we have to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning.
That's true. Where's this water coming from?
This is part of the Nahal Harod. And what you see right here
what is this?
Is from your countrymen, the British. This is a British pumping station. I mentioned before, we said before how this is such a strategic location where Tel Jezreel is, and that civilizations after civilizations keep building places here.
Right.
I mean, modern time is no different.
And this water, guys, is like absolutely pristine clean. It's really amazing. So back to what we were saying before you brought us into one of, I think, the best hidden gem that you've shown me yet. I'm going to give this the #1 spot. Is that Jezebel has come into common uses as like an evil lady, if you like.
Yeah, by the way, the Hebrew name for Jezebel is Izeva, which literally means garbage island. So.
Oh, a garbage island, okay. From now on I will call people garbage islands. And the other part of it, this is more in Israel, in Hebrew, the sentence that comes out of that story in the Bible is, he's sort of, the king is kind of told off.
Yeah.
And he's told that, did you kill him and also inherit him? And that's come into like common usage here in Israel.
It sounds better in Hebrew.
Yeah, which means in Hebrew, like having your cake and eating it, basically. It means like winning twice. which is also quite amusing that Bible sentences come into common usage. Okay,
Oh yeah, and
let's
that's
go
definitely
back.
not the only one too. So.
Yeah, definitely not the only one. So LiDAR,
Yes.
scanning, and that way I know where to dig.
Right. So it's really revolutionary, and they used it on this dig, and what they found is that this whole area where you see all these fields around the Tel here,
Yeah.
it's covered in signs of civilization. Water cisterns, storage areas, walls, fortifications, you name it.
So let me ask a question. So Solomon and the king of Judah after that, its capital would have been Jerusalem.
Yes,
The northern kingdom, Israel,
yes,
its capital would have been where?
Samaria. But
Right.
Jezreel would have been one of the main places.
I see.
And they also had a palace here.
So, okay, so this was a major established city at that time, and that's
Yes.
why this area is covered.
Yes, but it's amazing because, I mean, think about what's under our feet right now.
Yeah.
It's not just what you see at the little tiny places that have been excavated on this Tel. It's all over
around
this area.
us.
They did like a 7.5 kilometer area that they scanned.
Right.
And one of the things they found, and they dug this place after the first season in 2013, is they found something that looked like a wine press area. And so they dug there and they found this like industrial wine making area with the pressing floor and a couple of vats. And in today's terms, it would have produced the equivalent of about 3,300 bottles of wine per year.
Right, so it was a serious business. It wasn't just some homemade little, you know, for
Exactly.
friends and family.
Exactly, and especially in ancient times, you're going to have the pressing areas right near where you have the vineyards as well. So when we talk about this famous story about Navot and his vineyard,
Right.
which is right near Jezreel,
So his vineyards were probably being in the valley on the side of the hill
in
somewhere.
the valley, in the side of the hill, and who knows, the place that they found in the excavations could have been
Might have
connected
been
to
that
both.
one. So it's a fantastic story, and I love that we're running across this historical and biblical event with so many modern connotations as well. But talking about the wine and the wine growing, so back at the water we had eucalyptus trees.
Right.
To my left I have what looks like wheat.
Yeah, wheat fields.
And then further down the valley, it's a bit blocked off by the pumping station for a second, there appears to be apple trees down there as well, some kind of fruit tree that I can see over there as well. So this place is still absolutely rife with agriculture, which is absolutely fantastic.
You know, and even so, like when we talk about the beginnings of the Zionist movement, it's the first kibbutz starts here
Yeah.
in the Jezreel Valley.
So you can see the entire valley to the left is just trees and things growing. So we spoke about when we were up the hill, this is the highest point, or the thinnest point, sorry. So great strategic value. Used later on in history, except for biblical
Oh
times?
yes, throughout history there are battles here. From like the Mamluks in Jalut, from Napoleon fought battles here. In fact, Napoleon looked down at this valley and said, all the armies of the world to gather in this valley. So it's such a great place
What did he
for
mean?
battle. Meaning it's this open space,
Yeah.
okay, that's flat, that controls one of the most strategic locations really in the entire air region of the world,
I see.
okay? And you have this narrowing of it that happens right here. This narrowing can be used for strategic purposes, which is actually exactly what the Mamluks did to stop the advance of the Mongols here.
So he didn't really make a film 300 about that.
No,
Because 300 is exactly about that concept, thinning and then
Exactly.
holding your ground, right?
exactly.
Napoleon, great figure, Mamelukes. Is there any other modern day military leaders who are involved in this place, somehow
Well,
connected?
there's one really famous British guy,
Oh, come on.
although technically Scottish, but I won't
No,
know.
I know.
Who was here, didn't fight here so much, but he used this area, the base of Mount Gilboa. By the way, that mountain area that's over there that
To my right.
we've been heading towards
Yeah.
the whole time is the Gilboa.
I see.
And there's famous biblical stories happening on the Gilboa, which we'll talk about in a second.
Okay.
But this is why this guy named Ord Charles Wingate,
Yes.
who came here and commanded
The original night units, as they were known.
the Special Night Squad.
Yeah.
Okay. He used this area as his base. Why did he do that? Because his favorite book growing up was the Bible. And this area really came to life for him. And he's like, this is where my base is going to be.
Right.
Now, I should probably give a little bit of background on who this guy was.
Yeah, let's talk about him and the night squads and what, you know, what we have now in Israel after his name. to you after we've crossed the street. Sorry for the little break, ladies and gentlemen, but we just crossed a bit of a dangerous road, so we're just safety first, as is known. Let's go back to what we're discussing. So we got Wingate. He loves the Bible. What's he doing in Israel? What period are we in? Help me out here.
All right, good. So what you have to understand is that from 1936 to 1939, there's something called the Arab Revolt here. Basically, the Arab population is not so happy that you have all these Jews moving in.
Right.
Okay.
The beginning of Zionism.
Right. Yeah. And so their national movement is coming forward too, and you have a clash. And you have the Arab Revolt, which is going to cause all kinds of unrest throughout the land, not just against the Jews, but against the British, who are the ruling authority right now.
Right. From World War I and onwards until the creation of the State of Israel, the British ruled this place.
Exactly.
Right.
So the British need to keep control in this country, and so what they do is they do a number of different steps. Number one is they bring in a guy named Charles Tegart, who was head of the police in Calcutta, and he builds all these fortresses at major junctions all around the country in order to be able to control movement, okay? Because if you control movement, you control the country.
For sure.
That's again why this particular location and Jezreel is so important, okay? Because of it controls the movement through this valley. The second thing they do is they bring in this guy named Charles Wingate, who is this like brilliant, genius military mind and commander.
Yes.
And what he's going to do is he's going to train special Jewish squadrons called the Special Night Squads. So Wingate is brought over here in order to train special groups of fighters to protect the settlements, protect the pipelines and British installations, but he doesn't do it in the normal, let's stand in defense way.
Yes.
His tactics and strategy had to do with superior knowledge of your terrain, surprise attacks, guerrilla tactics. This is a guy who later on in his career is going to out-guerrilla the guerrillas in Burma. He's going to lead a very small force during World War II in Ethiopia that basically bring down the Italians there.
Yes.
And so this guy's this military genius.
So Wingate is actually also credited widely and recognized internationally as like one of the first pioneers of special forces tactics. Until then, military have fought, masses basically. And
interesting. I didn't know he was the beginning of that.
Yeah, he created small groups with very quick in and out attacks, and it was one of his great ideas. And this kind of relationship between Israel and British special forces continues because the Israeli elite force Sayeret Matkal is based off the British SAS, so much so that Matkal's phrase is "he who dares wins," which is the SAS's logo. So it even has it on their beret. So
it goes back to the thing that good writers borrow from other writers, great writers just steal outright. So
absolutely.
I guess we just stole outright from the British.
Well, the British kind of created this concept of small squads, and Matkal based off that and continue that till today. Okay, let's continue with Wingate where we were.
Yeah, so Wingate's real importance to us here though is his relationship to the Jewish community here. Now you gotta remember, this is the amphitheater.
This is the amphitheater.
I almost lost it in all the trees here.
Yeah, you can't really see it.
Talk about a hidden gem.
Yes. It's kind of appears out of nowhere. It's very camouflaged, very special forces. It's a special forces amphitheater.
There you go, right here. Come, follow us up here.
Yeah.
And look at this view. So look around, guys. This beautiful amphitheater in the middle of this valley, and it's totally overgrown. My favorite is the sign at the front, which basically says that this place was renovated by so-and-so. And look at it now.
How did that go?
You know what one of the biggest performances at this place was?
Go on.
Joe Cocker in the 1990s.
Really?
He performed right here.
That's amazing. It's kind of a shame. It's amazing to see concerts or performances in the middle of the great outdoors.
It really is, and you can't get a better view than this. Come on up here, guys. You gotta look at this.
What are those hills in front of me there?
So that's Givat HaMoreh, which is central to another one of the biblical stories that we're going to talk about with King Saul and his
So when we
final
spoke
battles.
about the strategy of this valley and how thin it is, this is what we're referring to. This is the 300.
Hidden gem.
Hidden gem. Okay, so we've been we've ambushed ourselves with the camouflage amphitheatre.
There you go.
And now we've done that, let's go back to what we were saying.
Right.
So Wingate was important because he built relations, we were saying.
Well, okay, but specifically with his relations with the Jewish community here. Think about this. When he arrives here on the scene, all right, the Jews are in the middle of, or towards the end of this massive waves of immigration that are trying to reestablish a Jewish presence here and sovereignty here after 2,000 years.
Yes.
Okay, and not everyone wanted that to happen, by the way. Not just the Arabs, but they also ran into problems with the British. For example, Jews were not really allowed to carry guns under the British mandate.
Right.
So how are you going to defend yourself if you can't carry the guns? Everyone's telling them, don't fight back, you know, you're not allowed to defend yourself here. And here comes Wingate, this British officer who says, no, I'm going to train you guys how to fight back. I'm going to train you to defend yourself. I love the Jews. You guys are the descendants of the biblical heroes that fought in this land, and this is your land. And so at the beginning, people were very suspicious of him. And there's the famous story about how a couple of the Haganah guys take him out to kind of test him out and see who this guy really is.
Right.
And they're here at Mount Gilboa, on top of this mountain here.
Right.
And all of a sudden, you know, they go for a smoke break or whatever, and they hear this guy yelling, saying, "Shaul, you idiot! Why did you not just sneak around? You had him. You could have done it. You went to the witch." And they're like, your name's Shaul? He's like, no. Your name's Shaul? No. And they realize what's happening here is that Wingate is seeing ghosts. All right, he's reliving the biblical events that happened in this valley. He's yelling at Shaul, the king of Israel, for his faulty tactics and faulty strategy when he's fighting the Philistines in this very valley here.
I see.
And they realize, oh, this guy,
he's for real, he's legit.
He's for real. And in this time, when everyone was telling the Jews, no, you don't have a right to bear arms, you don't have a right to fight for your right here, he says, no, you do have the right. This is your land.
Yes.
He says, but it ain't gonna come as easy. No one's gonna give it to you. You're gonna have to fight. You're gonna have to learn every rock and valley and hill and own it that way.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna teach you how to do it.
Absolutely.
And that's why he is so important to us.
I have a bit of a personal connection as well, that I studied to be a personal trainer, and I did it in the Wingate facility, which is where Olympic teams and all the major sports teams in Israel all do their training. It's this huge facility outside Netanya,
right?
And it's called the Wingate facility.
Ultimately, the end of the story is that he gets so friendly here that the British ship him off other places.
Yeah, they move him on. Yeah.
And ultimately, he's killed in a glider accident over in Burma. And you know where he's buried?
Where's he buried?
Arlington National Cemetery in America.
Yeah, that's the military cemetery in the US. That's not
right.
British forces. Why so?
Because the crash that he was killed in was a joint operation with the US. And so they kind of like took the remains of everyone that was involved in it and they buried it in Arlington Cemetery.
Okay. So we have come to a fence.
That's right, and we're gonna have a little magic trick here.
Well, we're gonna suddenly appear on the other side of the fence.
Yes, we're gonna go through the fence, a little Harry Potter-ish stuff for you. 1, 2, 3. 1. Whoa, there we go, other side of the fence. Very nice. Okay. Now we've done our great magic trick of somehow moving through fences, which is just unbelievable. So you referenced earlier, you said there's other biblical references here, and you kind of spoke about that Wingate was seeing ghosts of Shaul and he was telling Saul and what? Yeah, one of the most famous stories we have from the Bible about King Saul, who was the first king of all the tribes of Israel, occurs right here, and it's really, sorry to get back to death and destruction for you here, but he never tells me happy stories, never. It's always people dying and children being sacrificed was one of his favorites. Yeah, go on. Yeah, so Saul's final battle happens on the slopes of this mountain that we're on the very bottom of here. Right. And he had the Israelites lined up against the Philistines, who were on that direction. So King Saul's final battle was in this valley that we keep speaking about, of its strategic importance. Exactly. The Philistines were over there, the Israelites were up here. Right. And
So the Israelites had the high ground.
They did, but they weren't going to fight on the mountain. They're going to come down and do it in the valley. So the night before the battle, Saul is feeling a little bit, he doesn't know what to do. So there happens to be a witch, sorceress, who lives in a place called Endor, which is on the slopes there of Givat Moreh.
Okay.
And what he somehow does is he disguises himself, sneaks around the entire Philistine army, and goes to see the witch who calls up the prophet Samuel and says, "You're an idiot for calling me up because you had banned witchcraft. You know God doesn't like it, and now you're going to be here with me tomorrow night." And Saul then,
so he's gonna die.
He's gonna die.
Right.
He then sneaks back around the Philistine army, and then what does he do in the morning? Lead a direct assault on the Philistines. And this is what Wingate was so upset about.
I see.
But Saul dies, and his son Jonathan also dies in the same battle. Then ultimately, David is gonna become king. That's the story that happens right here at the foot of this mountain.
So the Israelites would have been camped literally where I am here.
Yeah, well, we don't know exactly where the Israelite camp was.
There's somewhere
It was
up this hill to my
somewhere
right.
on this mountain. Right now, we are on the Gilboa, right?
Yeah, very clearly. I've got the valley to my left, and up to my right is the hill itself. So I can see that definitely our surroundings have changed. We were pretty much in like the wilderness, and we've come into like a national park, I think.
That's right. We are at Mayan Harod National Park, or the Harod Spring National Park.
So this is in Harod National Park, but when I'm spinning over to my right, there's kind of a view that I wasn't really expecting in the middle of a national park. What is this, Michael?
This is the gravesite of Yoshua and Olga Henkin. He's essentially responsible for the purchase of all of this land in this whole area where the whole partnership region is. He came here and ultimately made his home and buried here.
So across these pillars, it actually shows his land purchases that he was in charge of.
And we're going to talk about him more when we go into Afula on that run.
And this was the Henkin house.
Right.
Okay.
Which they built but didn't really get to live in. But.
So now we're going to go down to the spring, the river, and I believe you have one more story for me. Is this going to be a happy one?
I think it's a happy story. It's a very inspiring story. How about that?
Okay, all right, I'll settle for inspiring.
Okay, so we have to go back before the time of King Saul.
Okay.
The time of the judges.
Right.
And one of the judges, his name is Gideon. And Gideon, it lives in this area right over here. And he happens to be the one who's going to lead the Israelites against the Midianites.
Right.
And the Midianites, it says, gathered their forces way down here, spreading out across this valley. And Gideon had gathered forces from all over Israel, and he only ended up having 30,000 men or so, when the Midianites were like myriads and myriads, much more than that.
Okay.
So what does he naturally do? He's like, okay, I have a big disadvantage in numbers, so clearly I'm going to send a bunch of people home. And he says, anyone who's afraid, go home. So then he's left with 10,000 people. Okay?
So he's already got lower numbers, and now he's sending people home.
Yes.
He's the worst military commander of all time.
Just wait.
Okay, all right.
So then he puts them through all this kind of training, and they get to this spring here in this valley where we are right now. Where we are right now. We're going to go through right to the spring. Okay. He says, okay, you guys thirsty? Go down and drink.
Okay.
And so the men go, and they go to drink from the spring. But some of them drink kind of like, kneeling down.
Right.
And others are drinking, like lapping up like dogs. Right?
So some would get on their knees and drink straight out of the water, and some were using their hand to kind of scoop and...
Exactly.
Right, okay.
Let's follow the spring this way.
Okay.
And what we don't know is which ones stayed and which ones he sent back, because the text is unclear. But he sends away a bunch of them. He's left with 300 men. And then he's like, okay, now I have the right number to fight against the Midianites. So everyone gets these jugs and they put it on top of their torches.
Okay.
And they go at night and sneak around the Midianite camp, and they totally surround the camp. And
The jug is to block out the light of the torch.
Exactly. And when Gideon blows the shofar, he smashes the jug and throws the torch into the camp, and it creates chaos because you have this fire coming from all directions.
Right.
And it says that what happened is that the Midianites just started slaying each other.
There's just noise and fire and confusion.
And he destroyed the entire army.
So excellent military tactics in the end.
So ultimately, he's able to defeat them because he knows the terrain. He uses surprise attacks, a smaller strike force. Who does this remind you of?
I mean, sounds like Wingate.
Exactly.
Sounds like he out-Wingate Wingate.
Where do you think Wingate gets it from?
Right.
That's why Wingate chose this place as his headquarters.
As his inspiration.
His favorite person in the entire Bible was Gideon.
Right.
And in fact, when Wingate goes to Ethiopia and he trains his fighters, you know what he calls his small force?
I'm going to go with Gideon.
The Gideon force. And here we are at the spring itself.
Right.
Where Gideon led his men to drink up the water.
I can literally see the water coming out of the mountainside.
Yeah, bubbling out. You got it.
And that was the same water that we saw earlier on. It came out of the mountainside.
Guys, come look at the spring.
Yeah, you can literally see it bubbling out of the mountainside. It's absolutely incredible. It really is amazing. Okay, we are here in Gideon Spring, and I mean, I'm in it and I'm very happy because my feet were quite hot. After a 5K run, I have to say, historically, this place is absolutely amazing. The amount of figures that we've gone through throughout this one: Wingate, Gideon, Saul.
It's totally uncomparable to pretty much anywhere else in the world. And it's such a beautiful area too.
Absolutely stunning. I mean, it has to be, I think in Israel, one of my top 10 runs that I've ever run. Absolutely fabulous. And to end in the spring, in Harod with everything around me, what a pleasure.
And we can't wait for you guys to come here yourselves, come run with us, come run in this area. And a big thanks again to the partnership together, Gilboa-Afula region and New England partnership for letting us come up here and film this for you guys because we're so happy to be here.
Please subscribe to the YouTube channel and get on the Facebook page and chat to us. Again, we would love to hear from you, and please continue to donate to the federations because it's what makes projects like this and others possible.
And we'll see you next time.
Running around Jerusalem, guys.
Have a good one.